everyone. So I am currently just setting this up. And yeah, so let's just do a okay, wrong button. I just got to make sure that the sound is working. And yeah, we're good to go. Okay, so sorry about the echo there. I was just making sure that my sound was working on the other end, and I've muted it now so I can also see your comments on the side as well as on the screen in front of me. Hopefully I can see it. It's about 7:45 at night, so I'm not sure how well this time is going to work, but I'm actually hoping that maybe doing this in the evening will be a little bit better for people, but it depends on where you are in the world, I guess. So yeah, essentially what was going on was this afternoon I had an ophthalmologist appointment, so I wasn't able to do this afternoon, so I had to schedule it for later at night. And so I wanted to keep this on Tuesday. I do want to set a date and time eventually where you can expect a live show, because I think having frequent videos at the same time is just the way to go about this. And if I find something that works with my schedule, and actually no matter what, this time of night I would never have to worry about not being able to make a stream even if I was working. So that is really nice. The only problem is, I guess, that if I decide to start doing this after work, is that I may be a little bit lower energy because I'm having to deal with the energy loss from work as well. But I don't know. So also during the evenings in the summertime, the wind tends to just die down. It's just the way it is. It's the way it works. And yeah, so I don't know whether that's a good thing to do or not, but I decided I would do another show outside, because why not when we have the weather for it? So yeah, the first thing I want to do is actually give you an update about how my ophthalmologist appointment went. And then I'll get into the topic of today's stream, which is talking about the delicate balance of telling people when you're not feeling well with having a chronic illness, and then telling people that everything's okay at the same time. So like, it's such a balance. It's also a hard balance for me to show in the videos as well. Like, you try and do it in the vlogs, but it's pretty difficult to do, and showing both sides of what the illness is like. Like, you don't want to be too negative or you sound like you're complaining, but you also don't want to be too positive, because it downplays a little bit of the negative parts of the condition and the reality of living with the condition. So it's a very, very delicate balance, actually. But yeah, so I'm not sure if the wind is going to interfere with my audio at all. I'm in a pretty sheltered spot here, so I'm hoping that it doesn't. Now, I am wearing a sweater because it is a little bit chilly out tonight, but yeah. So let's just get right into the update first. So as I was saying, the reason why I couldn't do a live stream this afternoon was because I had an ophthalmologist appointment today, so I had a checkup, and everything is good. So I'm really, really happy. I have to admit that I get kind of nervous for my ophthalmologist appointments, just because it's a sign and basically testing to make sure that my eyes are still good. And so there's always a little bit of nervousness that I'm going to have something come back that isn't good, and that I'm going to end up where I'm either going to have to go back on the acetazolamide, which is a big fear, because I worry about what my energy levels would be like back on that medication. One of the things that I've noticed quite significantly, actually, is just how much my energy levels have improved being off of the medication. Like, the fatigue levels are definitely still up there, but they're nowhere near acetazolamide level fatigue. So I'm able to manage now with the things that I have to manage. But if I was to have the added I guess, complication of needing to take medication again, it would be a lot harder for me to have the energy to do everything that I need to do in a day. And it would be a huge problem trying to manage that level of fatigue, because it basically puts you at a level with those with chronic fatigue syndrome, so, or ME. And it's a very real complication, I guess, of the medication. It's a very, very real side effect of that medication, and it's just not something I want to have to go back on for that reason. So I was really relieved and happy. I didn't think there was going to be anything that showed up, but you never know, and all of that about whether you're gonna have something that shows up that you didn't catch. But essentially everything is good, and that's what matters. So I'm really, really happy about that. It's more motivation to keep trying my best to keep my weight the same and all of that, because it seems like the weight loss is what did it for me. I know that's not the case for everybody, but I seem to be in that typical IIH category of losing weight and it helping. So I haven't honestly gained much weight, if I have, in the last little bit, because my skinny jeans still fit, which was a bit of a shock. I've been having trouble getting in any workouts lately because of how much I've been working. So I've had to rely on my energy for work, and so I haven't put out any extra to be doing the workouts. And it seems like the major battle for me, if I want to call it a battle, I don't like using that term, but if I want to say it's like a battle, the major battle for me is probably with the calories. And I'm still really careful about how many calories. I don't really count calories anymore. I don't sit there and write out how many calories I'm eating in a day, but I keep a general idea so that I do know kind of where I'm at in the day and kind of how much I think I might need, which, depending on the day, if I have a really busy day at work, I'm going to need more calories. So all of that, and I don't deprive myself of the things that I enjoy either. Every once in a while, so once every 2 or 3 days, I'll have a treat, whether that be ice cream or whatever. And I try to just make sure that there's balance in my diet. I try and stick to a main thing most of the time, kind of like an 80-20 rule, I would call it. So 80% of the time you're being good and following what you need to do, and 20% you're allowed to be human and enjoy life, basically, is kind of where I'm at with that. And I think that's really important to mention, that I think the real challenge is achieving the weight loss to begin with. But I think there's another challenge that happens when you're trying to maintain the weight loss that people who lose weight don't talk about. It's a constant thing. It doesn't end just because you stop losing pounds. So for me, the workouts now are more about getting in shape than they are about weight loss at this point, because I don't know if you guys have seen what I look like, but I feel like I'm at a healthy weight now. Even if I'm slightly heavier than maybe what ideally I would be, I'm very happy with where I'm at with that. So yeah, that's kind of, I think, it for the ophthalmologist appointment. It was really quick, actually. So the longest thing with these ophthalmology appointments is doing the peripheral vision test. It feels like it takes forever. So I was really happy today. I felt like it went okay. I kind of felt like I was having trouble in the one eye, but my one eye has always been worse. So I haven't mentioned this probably before, but when I was younger, and actually very little, had a lazy eye. So I was under the care of an ophthalmologist growing up, from the time I think I was about 18 months old until my optic nerve hardened, which occurs around 10, I think, 10 or 11. And so I'm very used to eye doctors. And so, yeah. Okay, looks like my stream is kind of cutting in and out here. Okay, maybe we're okay. But yeah, so I think, let's see here. Seems like it's cutting in and out on me. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. Anyways, so I've been under the care of an ophthalmologist for a while now, and it's like since I was really little, and I had to be referred to a different one when all of this stuff first started, but it was, it's just not something that you want to have an issue with your vision. Like, the scary thing with IIH is that you can permanently lose vision, and I'm very thankful that that hasn't seemed to happen with me. I'm very happy that that doesn't seem to have been the case. Like, I think I often actually wonder what would have happened with this had it happened in the height of the pandemic, because I had timely access to the doctors that I needed to, and that's always been a concern, but in the back of my head. But I don't think it's something that I really need to really often think about. It's just something that is in the back of my mind, especially for those who are dealing with this in 2020 and 2021 definitely. So yeah, that's the biggest thing that people need to be aware of when it comes to the IIH aspect on this channel, is that although it's not technically life-threatening, it can be life-altering, because if you do lose your vision, that can be a huge disability. Now, there are things you can do to help manage that and all of that. Like, you can get access to a bunch of different things to help you through a vision loss. But if it's something that can be prevented, that you don't have to lose your vision, I think that's, just the most important thing. Like, it's not like a total devastating thing if you happen to lose your vision, but it can change a person's life dramatically, obviously. And the way that people want to think about that is up to them. Like, I haven't had to deal with that, so I don't feel like it's appropriate for me to talk about. But that was definitely a fear after I found out the complications of IIH. And it was definitely on my mind. And I think it's something we all think about. So, yeah, just something I wanted to mention. But that's basically why I had an ophthalmologist appointment. It has nothing to do with migraines. It's because of having IIH, and it's the way that they monitor everything. That's really the only objective thing that they use now to monitor how I'm doing, is making sure that my optic nerves are good. So that's part of basically being post IIH, which it's not cured, but it's in remission. So, that's the most important thing. And hopefully it stays that way. Like, I'm doing everything that I possibly can by maintaining my weight and all of that. But, there is always that real possibility that it could come back again. And it's a very real fear of mine of it coming back without having any weight gain occur, like any major quick weight gain occur. It's always been something that freaks me out, because if that was to happen, essentially I don't know what the course of action would be, and I want to do everything I can to avoid surgical options when it comes to IIH stuff, because it fails a lot. It doesn't have a high success rate, and all of that. And I don't talk much about the surgical options for IIH because I don't know much about it, because I haven't been through that, and I want to keep it that way. So that's essentially it for that. Now, finally, getting into today's topic. So the reason why I spent a lot of time talking about my ophthalmologist appointment is because actually today's topic is, I think, going to be fairly short. So what I have written down here is, today's topic is the delicate balance of explaining the struggles I have on a day of low productivity or increased symptoms with how normal I look or act on the outside on a good day. So there's a kind of two-tiered thing that people will see between different days. There'll be some days where I'm in a lot of pain and might look quite exhausted. And, you know, other than the exhaustion, there probably isn't any real outward notice that I might be having a bad day. And then there's, you know, the fact that I can maintain employment and seem fairly happy. But there's the underlying struggle that, you know, you're dealing with all of these chronic symptoms, basically, and chronic pain. And I consider it more now a chronic pain than I do anything else. But, you know, there isn't really a lot of pain anymore. Like, so with the migraines now, and that's what I'm going to be talking about now, not so much the IIH, but with the migraines, for me now, my biggest symptoms on a bad day are dizziness with sudden movements of my head, especially doing this, and vision, it affecting my vision. So whether that be, you know, just not seeing, things move differently when you have a migraine. It seems like time and space are completely different when you have a migraine. It's hard to describe, but I'm hoping that those of you who experience this will kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. Like, time just seems to flow a little bit differently, especially if you're having to try and function and all of that. It's really hard to describe, but it seems like things move just so much differently when you have a migraine. And I just realized I forgot to, it's okay. I hope that I just don't get any notifications. But anyways, so, other than maybe looking a bit more tired, I look completely normal on the outside. And since I'm stubborn about how much I share off my platforms, I may not always open up about my symptoms that I am having. So because I spend so much time trying to talk and advocate for people with migraines on my platforms and on social media, there really isn't a lot of time that I spend outside of this on that thing when I'm in real life. Like, I just feel like I'm just not in the right headspace often when I'm out in the actual world, I guess. And sometimes I'm just not in the mood to be talking about it. Now, sometimes I can't because I'm not in the position to talk about it. But, you know, I'm stubborn about not only sharing what symptoms I'm going through because I feel like I can't articulate them well person to person, but I can in front of a camera. And so I may not always open up about the symptoms I'm experiencing, and I may not feel like it's appropriate in the moment, so I may not open up for that reason too. But generally, if people ask me, oh, how are you feeling today, like in a genuine way that I can tell that they're actually interested and not just doing it because that's what we do colloquially as a society, but don't really care about the actual answer of that question, then I will actually open up and be honest. But without the direct question, I'm not likely to volunteer the information very readily. And which is, I think, you know, something that people don't really understand, because if it's more of a, oh, general, how are you doing, I'll just say good and we'll move on. That's just the way it is. But if it's less of that, but more people generally interested, and you can tell by the way people word things whether they're generally interested or not, I think, you know, that you can kind of tell that based upon the situation. So, you know, that's important. Another thing is, people don't see my morning routine of what involves all the planning that I have to do. And this is for managing the fatigue in particular, and managing the symptoms that I may wake up with in the morning. And, you know, the amount of work that it takes to get to a point where you can go out and do the things that you need to do. And this just happens before my day even starts. Now, it's becoming so routine, and I'm very used to the energy levels that I have now, because I think I've been off of this. I think I found out today that I was off of acetazolamide for about a year now. And so I've adjusted very well to the amount of energy that I've been able to basically, feels like, claw back, right? So I think my fatigue levels are about 80 to 85% better than what they used to be. Like, they're not gone, so I still do have to manage it to a certain degree, but it's nowhere near like what it used to be for managing that. Like, so I used to have to be really careful about the amount of things that I did in a row, or I would really feel it for the rest of the day, or it would mean that I was not functional the next day or even a couple days after. Now, I still sometimes get the pain of overdoing it, but I'm never non-functional, like, completely. And although there's definitely challenges and I may feel it for the rest of the day, like, I'm still able to do the things that I need to do, which is really, really important. So yeah, I think that's really important to mention. So because people aren't seeing the things that basically go into me being able to function, there's basically, it looks like they're seeing a normal person when they're out in real life, and I think of it as almost like a mask at this point, and it's very weird to talk about it that way, but it does feel like a bit of a mask when I'm not being open and authentic about the struggles that I'm having in a day. But it just feels like you just kind of go by the way people are kind of behaving around you, and whether you want to open up about that or not. And I know that not everybody wants to hear me talk about it, and it does seem like you're complaining after a certain point. Like, it does feel like you're not being open and honest, I guess, in the way that you need to be in those cases. I guess is my point. I don't really know what I'm saying anymore. So people often don't notice the symptoms that I might be dealing with. That's the whole idea of it being an invisible illness, right? It's not visible, and I've talked about how it's nice on one hand to have it be invisible, because that way you're not getting asked inappropriate questions at the wrong time, where you might not be able to respond in a legitimate way. But on the other hand, people aren't seeing the struggles that you're facing in that day if it is a bad day, because other than, you might have dark circles under your eyes, which some of us can have anyways, whether that be from lack of sleep or whether it just be genetics or whatever the reason might be, dark or lighting. Even lighting can do it. You can get rid of dark circles with proper lighting. And so people don't see when you're fighting the dizziness. They don't see the pain. They don't see the outwardly signs that you might be having a bad day. So they expect you to be as good as you were the day before, essentially, or before when you're at your best. I tend to mention sometimes that I may not be feeling my best, so I may not be at my highest productivity. I don't feel the need to do this, though, because I think it does show a little bit. If people really know me and really pay attention, they probably can tell. And I've mentioned the situations that generally come up that might bring on a bad day. So yeah, but if I'm really, really feeling bad and like I'm on the edge of whether I feel like I'm being productive enough, I may mention it out loud, just so that people are aware, oh, I'm not feeling 100% today, might not be at my best, basically. But it doesn't come up a lot, actually. Like, I'm very thankful for that. And as much as I wish people understood what I'm experiencing, again, it's nice to have them not see it so that you don't get asked awkward questions, which I think I kind of mentioned that last week in that one section, which I haven't actually gone through that video yet. So yeah. I do compensate quite quickly, actually, for when I am experiencing symptoms, whether that be dizziness, or, the pain. I may end up taking pain medication, I may not. I'm actually quite stubborn about taking pain medication just because I don't like to take it, and I don't like to rely on medication because I feel like the more I take something and the more I rely on taking something, the less that it will be effective in the future. That might sound weird to some people, but that's just the way it is. So like, I can kind of just ignore it better than taking pain medication and being frustrated that it's not working, which happens a lot. And actually, when it comes to pain medication, like, yeah, I can take medication sometimes if I'm dealing with pain, but a lot of these other symptoms that I deal with now with migraines, there isn't really much I can do because I don't have a medication for it. So like, the dizziness that comes is probably the biggest. The pressure underneath my eyes and the feeling of fullness in my face, like, there's not much you can really do about that. It's just something that has to pass with time. Like, there's just not medication that I know of that can really help with that. So like, there's no point in taking medication that's not for that, basically. And it's not ever, the dizziness doesn't apply to this, but when it comes to the puffiness and all of that, like, it's not interfering with my ability to do my job. Excuse me. Okay, maybe that's not the best way of wording that. When it comes to some symptoms, if it's not interfering with my productivity, I feel like there's no point in treating the symptoms because, like, why, I guess, is my question there, basically. Probably the biggest thing when it comes to this balance, actually, that I mentioned in the thumbnail is one of the things that still shocks me is how good I can feel one day, but then just how bad I can feel, like, not only the next day, but in the same day. So like, let's say there's bad weather that comes through the area in the afternoon. I can go from having a wonderful day to so many migraine symptoms so quickly because there's a storm that rolls through. Like, this happens particularly in the summer. And this can happen too when there's a low pressure system or a rainstorm that's coming. Like, I feel perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden it'll hit at once. And it's like, it just feels like it just comes and it just, like, someone hits you with a boxing glove and just right in the face. And like, that's basically the only way I can describe it. Like, it seems to hit so fast and hard. I remember this happening with IIH too. And when I got my IIH episodes where I go from perfectly fine to absolutely exhausted to the pulsing in my ears and screaming in pain within like an hour and a half. It would be that fast. And now I don't know if anyone else is the same. Those of you who have IIH can weigh in the comments. But, you know, you've got so many things that change so quickly. And that was with the IIH mainly. But with migraines, it can change really quickly too. You go from feeling 100% completely normal to absolutely terrible really, really fast. And it's so fast that you don't really know what hit you. And I think that's still one of the things that surprises me, actually, is that how quickly it can change. How quickly you can go from feeling absolutely okay to feeling absolutely terrible. And it's something that still shocks my system. And I've been dealing with this for 4 years now, over 4 years, since I first started having symptoms anyways. But yeah, that's essentially everything I had written down here. If you guys think of any more about balancing these two things that I've mentioned, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. If you're enjoying my content, you can actually access more short videos and all of that. I've started combining and making compilations of the ones that don't make it onto my public platforms onto locals in my supporter community, so that's kind of like exclusive content there. So if you're interested, you can check that out on locals. The link to locals is down in the description, and you get like behind the scenes stuff that I don't share anywhere else and all of that. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. Let me know actually in the comments, if you've made it this far, what time, and base it off of GMT, so the universal time clock at 0. Tell me what time zone you're in so that I can kind of make these so that you guys can join the lives. I don't have a community tab yet on YouTube. We don't have enough subscribers. We get that at 500, I believe. So subscribe if you're enjoying this so that we can get a community tab, and then I can get an idea actually of what time you guys would like to see me go live so that I can make it work. Now, if it's a lot during the day, then I'll have to like come up with a different solution. But yeah, because I think I'm gonna move these to the evening and all of that. And if I happen to be absolutely exhausted, maybe I'll just do it on the different evening basically. But yeah, just the best way to find out when I'm going live is to either come join me on locals. You'll get notifications right to your phone, and you don't have to be a subscriber, all of that, to get these videos, because you can just follow me on there and you'll get the push notifications being just a free member of the page. I would actually like to turn off the monetization feature on there in a way, but it doesn't let me. It's just the way the platform works. It's like Patreon. So yeah, I think that's it for this one. And yeah, if you guys want daily updates and all of that, make sure you're following me on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. I post a lot in the stories, so I share when the reels go live. I share sometimes random videos of all of that. It's very not very frequent, I guess, because I don't really like the having to come up with specific content every day. Like, I like having my freedom to decide when I want to do content and all of that. But yeah, I think that's it for this one, guys. I am gonna leave that here, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.